Oh my gosh, conservative women are so good looking. We're so good looking. Oh, I'm going to walk around a lot, and I always bring, so how many of y'all from Texas, first off? This is something that if you're not from Texas, you need to know. Every woman walks around with one of these. Now, I'm about to break a big bad rule here. I do not have sweet tea in this. Oh, she's already like, I've had 5 sweet teas today. I've had them. Woo. It's just water, so I'll have all my sugar and everything later on. It is so good to be here with you all. God bless you. If you're not from Dallas, welcome to Dallas, and the rest of you sisters, it's good to see you. It's so good to be here. And the gentlemen, I see a few gentlemen, you are very lucky to be in the presence of such ladies, so we welcome you as well. So before I get started, I had like this whole, I have notes and all this stuff, which I'm not even going to look at because I was entirely distracted by something that happened on CNN a little earlier today. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm Dana, and I do a nationally syndicated radio show. I do TV commentary, I write books, and I am a dork. And I love guns and bacon. I was talking to one of the ladies that I really, really admire backstage, Judge Janine, who is there. Very few dress as nicely as she does. Really like her. I dropped my bag and she's like, can I go through your bag? And I'm like, I got a couple extra mags in there. I think there's a K-bar, just, all kinds of fun stuff. So I had this whole thing. I used to work at CNN a while ago. Like some of you were probably still in school. But I worked at CNN at one point, and I was kind of like the token conservative. And they were nice in that they did not know how to treat me because I disagreed with them. And I feel like we are at this impasse where some of our brothers and sisters on the left do not know how to coexist with those of us who think as we do. So anyway, I'm in between doing radio. I just finished 3 hours of radio, and I was getting ready to turn over and do some TV and do some post-production stuff. And I see all of this stuff with Allison Camerota, who is on television interviewing Jeffrey Toobin. Now, for those of you who are unaware of who Jeffrey Toobin is, he's a really weird dude. He's a giant pervert. I'm going to be very delicate with how I say this. He was on Zoom and he was caught tubing it in front of some female colleagues, and they kicked him off air. Conveniently, he forgot he was on Zoom and the camera was open. Now, I am watching him talk to Allison Camerota, and I'm going to call, I want y'all to see this clip. In fact, let's throw this up. They told me if I sent them stuff, they'd play it. You can feel the cringe. Watch this.
You were on a Zoom call with your colleagues from the New Yorker magazine. Everyone took a break for several minutes, during which time you were caught masturbating on camera. You were subsequently fired from that job after 27 years of working there. And you, since then, have been on leave from CNN. Do I have all that right?
You got it all right, sad to say.
Okay, so let's start there.
Okay.
To quote Jay Leno, what the hell were you thinking?
This is how they welcome this guy back.
I wasn't thinking very well or very much, and it was something that was inexplicable to me. I think one point, I wouldn't exactly say in my defense because nothing is really
we don't have to hear the rest of them. That's how they welcome this guy back. Gina Carano got fired from the Mandalorian because she was tweeting conservative stuff that wasn't offensive. You can be Jeffrey Toobin. You can be Jeffrey Toobin and do this in front of female colleagues, and CNN welcomes you back with open arms, and they'll turn you into a segment because this is CNN. That's what they do. That's the difference. This is kind of what we as conservatives have been up against in terms of not just double standards, but no standards. I used to say that the left had double standards. They have no standards. None. So this is a very difficult environment to navigate as young conservative ladies who are going in positions of leadership. because you have to navigate minefields like the Tubins of the world and the CNNs of the world. And it's in this cancel culture, awful environment that's trying to erase you. You are really, women today have it rough. They do. But you're here because you're the warriors. You are the shield maidens for the country. So I had to play that because if I saw it, you had to also. You know, sisterhood and all. So I wanted to give you, it says I have 19 minutes, and I think that's precious that there's a clock there. That's the last time I'm probably going to look at it. I wanted to give you some advice, some things that I have picked up because, you know, young conservative, you know, women's leadership, TPUSA does such a great job. Alex does such a great job. She has more energy than the Energizer Bunny. Love her. There are 3 women that I really, really admire. And the first one's going to sound weird. I have always admired Joan Rivers' work ethic. I watched this documentary about her. It was called Piece of Work. And they were asking Joan Rivers, why do you always work? You always have a project. You always have something you're doing. And she like fought her way out of bankruptcy, and she turned herself into this little mini industry. And she said, I like to work because I want to live a certain way. I don't want to just live comfortably. I want to live a certain way, the way I want to live. And I like to stay busy, and I don't mind working for it. And I'm like, God bless America, that you can still do that. I love that. I love that work ethic. I love it. I also like to live a certain way. I would like to have like a John Wick style gun wall in my closet. Maybe if you see my husband, very handsome man with a beard, you can help persuade him with me, because I would love to go in and, like, if you're wearing, you know, depending on if you're wearing stilettos, if you want to pocket carry, micro carry, however you want to do it, just kind of match the heel height with maybe the caliber. Would love to do something like that. So I also love to live a certain way, and I don't mind working for it. I loved that she was just so open about that, because have you noticed lately that ambition is looked upon so poorly, and merit is looked upon so poorly, as though these two things that helped build America and made this country what it is, that we're supposed to be somehow embarrassed or ashamed of that? No, no, no. You got to risk it for the biscuit. I love that she said that and that people do that. So that's one woman that I admire. The next woman that I admire is my mother, who is... she's like a female John Wayne, and one of my favorite stories I tell about her, single mother, for most of my life. In fact, I was probably an older teenager, and she got with my stepdad. And I wanted to play basketball so bad. I studied classical ballet. I did classical ballet for like 16, 17 years. I did track, I did soccer, I did all kinds of stuff, but I wanted to be a basketball player so bad. I could not play basketball to save my life. But I was like, I'm so good in all these other sports, it's gonna translate. Oh, it didn't. Oh, no, no. I tried out every year and I never made it. I didn't even make JV. That's how bad I was. I didn't even make JV. So, I try out, did make it again. I was like a freshman in high school. My mom pulls up in her Honda Accord, cigarettes kind of hanging out of her mouth, stuck to her lip. She's just kind of looking over her sunglasses, her aviators. I get in the car. She goes, well, we drive off, and I'm like, well, I didn't make it. She's like, yeah, well, maybe you're not supposed to be the best at everything. I was like, well, okay then. All right, maybe I'm not. But it was such a wake-up call. My mom was not everybody gets a trophy. My mom was like, you're good at this, but you suck at that. I think that was one of the greatest gifts, and that's hard as a parent to do. As a mother, that is hard for me to do, but we run a pretty tight ship, and I tell my kids, I'm like, some things you're not going to be good at, and you just have to own up to that. You can't be the best at everything. You may be the best at one thing, and that's not what people today want to hear. Everybody wants a trophy just for showing up. And now you see what that kind of mentality has done to the world, right? We have everybody gets a trophy administration. We have everybody gets a trophy foreign policy. Everybody gets a trophy economic plans. It's insane. The other woman that I really admire, and I was raised Southern Baptist, and I'm non-denominational now, is Mary, the mother of Jesus, because I don't think... No mother has borne the pain of the cross like this one, and when life isn't in a bed of roses, I try to remember who wore the thorns. And so, I always, whenever I look up to, there are a lot of women I admire, but those three come to mind. It's a, you know, with Joan Rivers in there, it's a weird assortment. Never thought you'd hear about Mary, Mother Jesus and Joan Rivers in the same thing, but you did, because it's me. All right, a couple of other things. The Joe Biden budget plan, what is it? I'm trying to remember which of the $2.whatever trillion plan this was, because it's $6 trillion total for in the first 100 days. I don't know anybody who has ever asked that much money. I called it on my Substack, I called it the Big Pimpin' Tax Plan, because I really felt like that's how, I mean, we were really being treated in such manner. But the thing that really stuck out to me, and I know a lot of you out there have been talking about this, was the phrase birthing person. So, I'm going to be real frank with birthing person. I have borne 2 children. My oldest son was in the 99th percentile for head circumference. And I did my first birth completely all natural, and my grandmother... My first birth, don't get too excited. My grandmother looked at me when I told her this, and she goes, "Sweetheart, when I told you that we would just go in a cornfield and bat down on some leather, I was joking." So when I hear phrases like birthing person, doesn't that feel like a diminishment of you, regardless of whether or not you've had kids yet? Does that not feel like a diminishment of your uniqueness, of your power, of your authority as a woman? The patriarchy is real, it's progressive. The same people who have always been on the wrong side of history, whether it was for suffrage, whether it was putting indigenous Americans on the trail of genocide, because one thing that the left loves, they love trains and they love encampments. They put Japanese Americans in internment camps, and then they always want public rail, everything, every time. I don't know why, like they're obsessed with it. Mayor, and I love using, what is his name? Lawrence O'Donnell, MSNBC. He treats every script like it's a Shakespearean performance. I particularly like how he says the name of the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. It's my favorite. But the Secretary of Transportation constantly talks about trains. And I'm like, that's great. I love the fact that we're going back now to the 18th century. This is wonderful. But it does, it's a diminishment. And we as women have been through far too much for far too long to be diminished at the request of progressive males. And make no mistake, they didn't... Make no mistake, did they turn men into fertilizer people? No? Just us? Okay, just us. But it's a patriarchal attack on the women of America and on common sense and on science. I love science. I don't know about you all. That's why I love science. I love talking about science, especially science things like hydroxychloroquine and all other kinds of stuff. We got some big fans of hydroxychloroquine in the house. But it is a complete diminishment. And yet we're supposed to be the ones who, I thought Republicans were the big sexist, whatever, stereotypical, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I've always been told, but yet I've seen the left do more to deny not just opportunities to, but recognition of women, more so than anyone else. So, here's like I said, I was going to be giving you some advice at some point. I did look at that clock, so you guys can tell them back there. I did. One story that I came across a couple of years ago was this story of Michelle Williams, and it was some movie that she was doing in which people had to, she was doing something where they had to do all these reshoots. She did a movie with Mark Wahlberg. They had agents at the same agency, and Mark Wahlberg was able to negotiate fees whenever they had to do reshoots for scenes. Michelle Williams' agent did not negotiate fees for her when they had to reshoot scenes. And this was packaged all nice and tidy in all of things like Hollywood Reporter and everywhere else as Michelle Williams was the victim of unequal pay. And I had said, no, Michelle Williams was the victim of her own lack of courage in asking for her worth. One of the best pieces of advice that I ever got, and I will tell you, is never, ladies, be afraid to ask for your worth. Whenever it comes time for my contract negotiations, everyone that I work with gets petrified. Because my agent is one, I love my agent. He's one of the biggest jerks in the world, and I love him for it. I love him. My attorney, one of the meanest people on God's green earth, and I love him for it. Never be afraid to ask your worth. In fact, ask for more, because the worst thing that anyone can ever tell you is no. Okay, so no. All right, well then let's negotiate. That's all it takes. I never understood why it is that progressive women could not ask for their worth, and then when they lacked the wherewithal to do so, that was the man's fault. That doesn't sound like empowerment, does it? Of course, this is coming from the same ideology that thinks not getting things paid for them for free means they are being denied. That sounds like a child's logic. Oh, I didn't get a Barbie doll, so I was denied because someone didn't purchase it for me. No, just go and get it yourself, whether it has to do with birth control or anything else that you need. Purchase it for your own self, empowered women. My heavens. One of the things that's happened in the past couple of weeks is for my radio program, we've expanded to over 230 affiliates and 230 different markets across the country. And I've worked real hard at this over a decade. And I always felt that, honestly, I had a little bit more of a leg up because I was a woman. There are not a lot of women in talk radio. You can easily weaponize that. And I noticed that in some of these press articles that have come up, because I love meritocracy, they would say, oh, number one woman at this, number one woman at that. I'm like, I don't want to be number one until I'm number one. I'm not going to use my gender as some junior varsity asterisk. I want to be number one, period. And there's a really nice woman, she's a reporter, and she was writing a story, and she was like, oh, you're the number one woman in talk radio. And I'm like, no, I'm a top broadcaster, but I'm not just, when I'm number one, I want to be number one of men and women. I don't just want to be top woman. There's not a lot of women in broadcasting. It's easy to be number one woman in broadcasting. My gosh. They had the talkers list the other day, and I think I was the only one in the top 20. It's really easy. I want to be number one. So the other thing is I know that all the left is in identity politics, and thank heavens that people on the right are not getting involved in this. Because and conservative women have never used their gender as a crutch. And that is one of the things that I love most about conservative women. Because they want to go out there and they want to own it on merit. They want to own it on strength. They want to own it on sheer power. But not only do conservative women not use gender as a crutch, but they protect what it is to be a woman. The other bit of good advice that I would share with you, boy, the press will love this one. Marry a good man and be a good wife. One of the smartest decisions I ever made was marry the man that I married. No other man on God's green earth could put up with me. Bless that heart. Bless that man. It takes a strong man to put up with my strong personality. And it's the smartest decision I've made. somebody to support you, someone to cheerlead with you, someone who really understands what a partnership is. And that's what we have. We have a partnership. I get aggravated when I see leftist press and everybody else try to denigrate what it is to be a stay-at-home mom. I will let you know that for the first years of my children's life, I was proudly a stay-at-home mother. I stayed at home with my children until it made sense for me to go and do other things outside of just being a stay-at-home mother. The hardest, most underappreciated work that women do in society. Shape the next generation. And I homeschooled my kids until 8th grade. And so my oldest, he's a 20-year-old college student who is going into political science, and then after that he's going to go into law. And my youngest thinks that coding, which he's correct, should be taught as a second language in school. And he ended under a different name, a different, handle online. He apparently is like, I just literally found this out the other day. He's like internet famous for creating mods for different games. And I had no idea about this. And I'm like, just don't talk to perverts on the internet, okay? I'm gonna look at your conversations, but it is. And it was rewarding, and I loved it. It was one of the happiest times of my life. I love what I do, but that right there is my biggest achievement. And if I never accomplish anything else in life, I can say that I've accomplished I've raised with my husband 2 amazing kids. We homeschooled them till 8th grade. One's a National Latin Scholar, honor roll, got scholarships to college. They are, well, basically 2 little Ron Swansons. People think I sit them in front of Fox News and feed them, Second Amendment pamphlets all day. They come by this information honest, I swear. They make good decisions. But one of the things that we required is that I made my kids take debate, because I think, and this is the other thing, marry a good man, be a good wife, and be able to articulate your ideas, particularly the ones that you hold dear and you want to be an advocate for. Be the best at articulating support for them. Because sometimes you might be the only evangelist for that issue someone on the left comes across. And you owe it to that issue to be the best you can be and speaking about that issue. I made my kids take debate. I said, you don't have to compete, but you will take debate. And we always have big, rowdy dinners. We have family dinner. It's mandatory in our house. You come and you sit for family dinner. If I see your phone, I'm going to throw it in the pool. And we always would say, if you're going to get involved in the table conversation, it must be of general interest, and you must be able to articulate your idea well and be able to argue in support of it effectively if it's a contentious issue. And if they don't abide by that, then they don't get to speak at the dinner table. We made them take debate, though. And then my oldest actually did enter and competed in some debate tournaments. But being able to articulate an issue, I've seen a lot of issues really hurt by people who weren't able to do it a service. But I love the dedication that I'm seeing from so many people, especially young women, especially on issues of life and family. Here's another thing that's super incredibly important. And this is something that I wish I would have done more of when I was younger. But you need to find a mentor and be a mentor to other young women. Definitely. I've been at some places where, and I know it gets real competitive sometimes with women. I mean, especially alpha women, which is what conservative women tend to be. We come by it honest, ladies. And there are some times in my professional career where I wished I wouldn't have kept my head down to just do my work. I wish I would have stepped in and said, you're being mean to this one, stop it. And as the senior woman. So older ladies, be a mentor. Younger women, find one. Because if you are a conservative woman and you are going into leadership, it may not be today and it may not be in the next 5 years, but I promise you, be inspired. You have been called to such a time as this. You are the shield maidens for America, for freedom, for liberty, And not just other women are watching you, my sons are watching you. Other women's sons are watching you. So you are an example, not just for young women, but also for young men. So go forward in confidence, be fearless, be courageous. You come from people who were bold, so honor them with equal boldness. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful conference. Thank you so much.